Foul demon, face the vengeance of the Moon Knight.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Tsunami Studios, and in this video we're going over a topic, something that I've wanted to cover I think since I started coming back and doing videos, and I couldn't figure out the right time to do it, so I decided, screw it, let's do it now. We are talking Moon Knight, and we're going over every reason he is different from Batman. I say every, even though it might not be every reason. These are just all the reasons I could find that he's different than Batman. There's probably way more, but that's just what we're going with. As any Moon Knight fan will tell you, Moon Knight is not Marvel's version of Batman. I look around and see all these sites who know nothing about the character. They're calling him Marvel's crazy version of Batman. No, he's not. You know, Marvel has a crazy version of Batman. You know who it is? It's the Punisher. That's why DC made a story called The Grim Knight when he was in the Batman Who Laughs miniseries there. Because they just made Batman Punisher. Marvel has a crazy Batman, it's Punisher. I'm telling you guys that right now. Marvel even has a not-crazy version of Batman, and that's called Daredevil. Daredevil is Batman right down to almost every theme and thematic element that is the character. I'm not saying they copied it, I'm just saying that's how that character is. Because if you break it down, the core themes of each of those characters are the same. Bruce Wayne and Matt Murdock have a lot of similarities. And the parallels between Mark Spector and Bruce Wayne are very thin. If Moon Knight is similar to any character in the DC Comics universe, it might be Azrael, who becomes Batman later on, so maybe that's why people say he's Marvel's Batman. That similarity only comes from this idea that both of them are steeped in this history of religious undertones and have a history of being somebody who's related to Bruce Wayne. That's about it. And before we get started and go into more of the reasons, I'd like to point out that I have a playlist on the channel called Moonwatch, where you can find all my videos talking about Moon Knight, comic books, MCU stuff, everything like that. I highly recommend checking it out. I enjoy talking about this character. So let's do it. Let's get into it. If I said it once before, I've said it a million times. Moon Knight is my favorite literacy character of all time, so I enjoy talking about him, and that's what I like doing. So I want to start by looking at where the comparison comes from. You know, why do these people think that these characters are similar? Moon Knight and Batman, of course. From one quick glance, you could say the characters have similar traits. They are both wealthy Caucasian men who dress up as a vigilante in their respective cities. They use weapons themed to their identity and have vehicles of that nature as well. But that's pretty much where the similarities end. After that, they are completely different. I would like to point out that this is like comparing Leonardo da Vinci to somebody like Andy Warhol. Both have their audience and are important to the genre of art and just creating stuff, but one has been around for so much longer. There's almost 40 years of Batman stories over Moon Knight stories. So along the way, of course, Batman has evolved and changed. At one point or another, he might have shared more common similarities with Moon Knight. I am sticking to the fundamentals. You know, I'm going to stick to the fundamentals or everything that is the core of these characters. Okay? Does that help cover some stuff? I hope it does. So let's jump into it. Here are some reasons why Moon Knight is not Marvel's Batman. Let's start with this. How did they get their money? Bruce Wayne is the son of billionaires Thomas and Martha Wayne. All of his money is inherited. What he made after that could be from anything in, Wayne Corp or any of the technologies he's built, but where he get most of his money, where his money comes from, is inherited from his parents. They were the billionaires, that's where he got his money. So that's Batman, here's Moon Knight. Mark Spector is nowhere near as rich as Bruce Wayne. I don't want anybody to think that. I had to say, just from looking at some research and stuff, Bruce Wayne has more money than Mark. That's just obvious. But, Mark got his fortune as a heavyweight boxer and mercenary. One's a rich kid, one's a boxer. Differences. Yeah, that's great. Our next part is, what leads them to becoming the hero? For Bruce Wayne, it's a story as old as time itself. We've seen it countless times on film. It's the death of his parents. Mark Spector bargained for his life after being left dead at the footsteps of the Egyptian god Khonshu. Dead parents, dead man, reborn. Differences in how they start off. I added this one because I think it's important to their characters for the most part. And it's not like a big thing, but I thought I'd add it in. What is their religion? We know Bruce Wayne is an atheist that has come up before, and we also know that he was raised Christian. So I think that plays a lot into how he delves in a certain situation, and how that relates to Moon Knight. Well, let's look at what Mark Spector is. We know Mark Spector was raised Jewish, his father was a rabbi, but every day of Mark's life as an adult, he has to talk to a god. He is talking to an Egyptian god. So how does that affect their religion perspectives? Batman doesn't believe in gods. Moon Knight literally talks to a god every day. So what can we take from this? So far, we know the following about the characters. Bruce Wayne was born into wealth. After the death of his parents, he devoted his life to a cause of justice, becoming the Knight of Gotham City. Mark Spector was born the son of a rabbi who turned to a life of crime and deceit. After being left for dead, he is reborn as the Moon's Knight of Vengeance. Already, we start to see the difference between the two. Their respective origin stories are the linchpin for the thematic elements of each of these characters. Batman is about justice. He longs to save the city he cares so much about, so no one will ever grow up like him. No one will have to become the Batman. Moon Knight is all about vengeance, becoming an avatar of torment to those who deserve that same vengeance. And now let's talk about villains. I don't know if this was a big one to bring up, but I just thought we should talk about it, because it's kind of important. Batman has the most colorful rogues gallery of all time. Moon Knight has maybe 3 or 4 cool-ish villains. Nobody really sticks. Moon Knight doesn't have a Joker, and he never will. The closest thing he has is Bushman, who's already a drastic contrast from the Clown Prince of Crime. I don't want to lean too heavily into the side characters or the loved ones, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. You know, Bushman is the reason Mark becomes Moon Knight, which is the exact opposite of what happens with Batman and Joker, depending on your continuity, where an encounter as Red Hood leads to the creation of Joker. So, in DC Comics, the hero creates his archenemy. In Marvel Comics, the archenemy creates the hero. Isn't that a bit different? How does the rest of the world react to that hero? Let's start with Batman here. While there might be some characters who find Batman introverted and closed off, there's a genuine respect for him throughout the large DC universe. He's part of a trinity. Superman, Wonder Woman, he is up there with the best of them, and he's just an ordinary hero. He's best friends of Superman. The world, for the most part, likes Batman. What does the Marvel Universe think about Moon Knight? It's safe to say very few heroes in the Marvel Universe like or care for Moon Knight. He is often referred to as the crazy sidekick, an insane loose cannon, or the shadowy vigilante who's too dangerous for his own good. From this, we can see the way the worlds respect each character. If Moon Knight was Marvel's Batman, he would be up there with Spider-Man and Wolverine in the Trinity of Marvel. He would lead in Avengers books. He'd have multiple ongoings and numerous factors going for him in that regard. This can lead into the real world a bit too. In our real world, the characters are far from the same. Moon Knight is less popular by a long shot, but anyone on the street can name Batman and can tell you who Batman is. Only a select few can tell you who Moon Knight is. So, in both their fictional worlds and their real ones, Moon Knight is, and always will be, less than Batman. So what's actually going on? This is hard to do because Batman has such a rich history, so instead I'll tell you the basic ideas of Moon Knight. Then in the comments, you guys could tell me which Batman story in continuity, I don't want any Elseworld stuff in here, which continuity story of Batman can relate most to this Moon Knight story. So Moon Knight is the avatar of the moon god Khonshu. He spends the early years of his creation in this weird place, kind of gothic horror, tragedy mixed with ancient Egyptian mythology and constructs. He is literally talking to a god of Egypt, like a literal god. Later, we would learn more about this, and maybe Khonshu is an extra-dimensional being. The point being, Moon Knight is part of this horror vision for Marvel. There's werewolves. He comes from a werewolf book, right? He's from a werewolf book. As time goes on, his story became more and more tragic. Now we learn Mark has DID, dissociative identity disorder, and the personalities he created for himself are no longer this idea from the 80s. They are from a modern era that are dark and vengeful. There's something mysterious going on inside Mark's head. They are the thing that becomes his defining features. Mark Spector has multiple personalities and is literally insane. With this comes the underlying thing that I believe is seen for any true Moon Knight story, and that is the line between what is real and what is fake. Is Khonshu real? Or is the god just another figment of Mark's fractured mind? Going forward, numerous writers played with the idea of Mark having mental problems. Some of my favorite work comes from it. The Lemire run. It's pretty good. That is not the case for Batman. Bruce Wayne constantly needs to be the smartest guy in any room. He isn't allowed to go crazy or experience multiple personalities, and he doesn't have to. That's not what that character is about. That's because these characters are built from different things. Now we have a couple of smaller notes I'd like to bring up before we get back to the main stuff. Batman has a bunch of Robins. There's a Bat family. Moon Knight had one sidekick for like 1 minute, pretty much. I mean, that's about it. Batman uses his stealth to hide in the shadows, whereas Moon Knight, a guy who dresses all in white, wants to be seen by the world. That is another part of him. He wants the bad guys to know he's coming, where Bruce Wayne and Batman, they want to stay in the shadows and do the stealth approach. This last bit is all about the themes and ideas and the core of each character, what they are about, why do they exist. The story of Batman is about fear. A young man is taken from his parents and wants justice for himself and for the world. He becomes a detective, he becomes a ninja, he becomes a mentor to young people who are experiencing the same trauma he went through. Batman is about pushing past your trauma in whatever form it takes. He's a staple of a large universe, a man who would rather fight the same clown over and over again than let him have the satisfaction of being killed. In many ways, Batman is the ultimate symbol of heroism. The story of Moon Knight starts with the death of Mark Spector, a man who became tormented by one incident that gave him life, the act that drives him to the brink of insanity and pushes him over, allowing him to kill his enemies and be haunted by a god. He is one man who should never wear a cape and cowl and fight crime, but chooses to because he wants to be better than the god that made him. He's the ultimate symbol of redemption, one he has found, but will lose all the same. Both characters show us the tragedy of one's actions. They both try for a better life that they know will never come. Sometimes it does, if even for a minute, but then they are pulled back into their lives of suffering. It's not just common to them. Characters like Spider-Man, Daredevil, Red Hood, Green Arrow, and many more all deal with these issues too. Aside from the money, cars, and cool toys, that's the only similarity that these characters have in common. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that Moon Knight is not Marvel's Batman. They are opposites at almost every turn. Origin stories, religion, color palettes, dealing with villains, presence in their respective universe, the themes and ideas of their trauma, the way they were trained, the use of their sidekicks, their mental stabilities, why they are heroes and what stories are told with them. They couldn't be more different. So, to any casual fan out there, I'm not mad at you. But you shouldn't go around saying Moon Knight is Marvel's Batman, because he isn't. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And check out more of my Moon Knight videos. They are definitely worth the watch, and I enjoy this character a lot. This was a lot of fun to make, and I hope you enjoyed. So one last time, so it sticks in your brain, Moon Knight is not Marvel's Batman.
Tsunami Studios.